Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome. I'm Shannon Kelly. I'm thrilled to be here with you all tonight. Such a beautiful crowd. Thank you to Open Space for hosting us this month, and Hand in Hand Productions for the very fancy multi-room stream. Has anyone checked out the food? Thank you, El Sancho Catering, for providing the delicious bites, and Sips cocktail service for our drinks. I'm hosting tonight's PubTalk courtesy of MC sponsor OSU Cascades. The new Energy Innovation Center at OSU Cascades is a nexus for researchers, industry, entrepreneurs, and talent seeking to accelerate energy innovation and turn ideas into deployable solutions and economic opportunity. Visit osucascades.edu/EIC to learn more. And also thank you to our PubTalk title sponsors for making PubTalk a reality every month. We'd like to introduce them one by one, invite them up on stage. So first up is Emma James from Exemplar Wealth Advisors. Emma, get on up here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emma James. I'm a financial advisor and partner at Exemplar Wealth Advisors. You'll notice that I did not somersault onto the stage, and that is because John Stark bailed again. So make him feel bad next time, will you? We are a wealth advisory firm based out of Bend. We've been here for over 25 years, and we are dedicated to supporting our exemplary business owners of Central Oregon, specifically as they prepare for and exit their companies. Now, the reason why we got into that space was because there's not a lot of resources out there on how do you do that? And one of the reasons that's a problem is because of the businesses that go to market that are listed, only about 70 to 80% of them, actually less than 70 to 80% of them actually sell. That's an issue, especially if that's 20, 30 years of your life's work culminating into nothing. So we have a process where we help our business owners identify how do they actually go through this process successfully. To give you one example, we worked with a business owner named Betty. She closed on her business last week. Her name is not Betty, by the way. And she thought her business was worth $40 million. Sound familiar? Most business owners get in their own way and they think their business is worth way more than it actually is. Through the process of working with her and her broker, she figured out it's worth $8 million, and she wasn't committed to spending 2-3 more years in the business to actually make that EBITDA higher. But we were able to share with her, like, hey, girl, you can retire actually at $4 million, so say yes and get out of your own way. So if you're a Betty or you have a Betty, we would love to talk and help you really make all your hard efforts in your business count. So that's all I got for you.
Thanks, Emma. So be a Betty or don't be a Betty or somewhere in between. Go see Emma. That's the moral of that story. All right, next up, Trevor Campbell from Kernet Stokes. Trevor, no somersaults necessary.
Hi, everyone. I'm Trevor Campbell. I'm a partner at Kernet Stokes. We're a CPA and business advisory firm. Obviously, we just passed tax season. Yes. Yeah. Cheers to all. Cheers to Randy, my coworker back there. This is a great time, if you came out of tax season with questions, with frustrations, with anything like that, don't wait until next November or December to start thinking about potentially changing or getting some professional help. Reach out now and start asking those questions now. This is the best time. Everything's fresh in your minds. So yeah, reach out to us. All right, I've got a gift card here. I usually have a fun question or trivia or something like that. Who in here is a golfer? All right, you're the first person I saw raise your hand. Here you go. There's a Callaway gift card.
Congratulations. Gosh. Who has questions about taxes? So many of us. Next up, Julianne Horner from Providence Health Plan. Julianne, how you doing, my friend? Ooh, it looks like you have something special.
Hi, everybody. My name is Julianne. I'm with Providence Health Plan, and Kurt always upstages me giving out gifts. So this time, I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I have these gifts. There's new research that's out that if you spend 20 minutes a day outside, your health outcomes improve over 62%. 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week, will make your health have longevity, will help you live a solid, more wonderful life. So with that being said, and it's spring, I actually have plants. So you're going to have to help me, Fana. So we're going to do a couple things. The first is, who has Providence Health Plan insurance today? Woohoo! Come on up, sweetheart. Yay. Who took a walk today? Right here. Who has already bought their plants and has them outside and has to bring them in at night because it's too cold? Right there, come on up. So my goal for all of you is I hope you hear the research and you know that 20 minutes is nothing. You've scrolled longer than that today. So my ask of you is give your gift to your future self and do those 20 minutes every day. Thanks.
I love it. Thank you, Julianne. We had such a weird winter. I have plants from last year that are thriving right now. It's bizarro, but parsley is doing well in my yard. Okay, next up, Julie Summers from Kiln. Julie, welcome. First timer, Julie. No somersault necessary.
We're almost matching. It's wild. Great minds. Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Summers. I'm the community director at Kiln Bend. Make sure that you scan this QR code because our founding memberships are almost gone, where the building is probably about 70% full. And it's a co-working / office, private office space. But we're really leveling things up because a lot of people come to me and they're like, I already have a co-working or I have an office at home and I love being alone in my space. I'm sure that you don't. The building we have... Sure, your snacks. Come see our snacks. It's 24/7 access to the building. We have an on-site massage therapist. There's an atrium full of plants you can hang out in. We've got coffee, tea. We have 2 snack times a day, just like it's kindergarten. That's free to members. We also have a theater. We also have tons of meeting rooms. We have about 15 of them. I also don't know who put me in charge of naming them, but they're all really punny. So come and tour, check it out. Come be a co-working space with us or private offices. So we've got some that face kind of the western view if you want to look at the mountains. We also have phone booths that are as close to soundproof as we could get. But come check it out. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Julie. I know the power of co-working. You have such a nice interaction with someone that you just wouldn't have had at home, and it really is powerful stuff. So thanks for being here. Kurt Barker, Best, and Krieger. Yeah, Mark Runner, get on up here.
Hi, so I'm Mark Reinhardt, and I have the pleasure of working with Kurt at Best, and Krieger. I am a M&A transactional attorney, so I help folks buy and sell companies. Mostly, I'm just super excited for tonight's Pub Talk because it's about Wildfire. And if any of you know me, you know that I won't shut up about the fact that my house was inside the fire perimeter for the flat fire. So if you want to see some cool videos or pictures, I've definitely got some. 51 hours without sleep and the craziest 3 hours of my life fighting that thing. Got within 10 feet of our house. But I'll put all that to the side. I am a lawyer, so I have to say nerdy lawyer things. In 1919, the Supreme Court said there is a word you can't shout in a crowded theater. What is that word? Oh, man, one person had to... Okay, raising hands. Who is generally seen as the inventor of the modern firefighting axe? Yeah, my man. All right.
We got some smarty pants in the room tonight. I love it. Thank you, Mark. You always share the best nerdy lawyer stuff, and we appreciate you. Okay, Jordan Smith could not be here from CMIT Solutions, which is so weird. It's like, is it even a pub talk if Jordan isn't here? But we wanted to share that CMIT Solutions provides IT solutions and support here in Central Oregon. Jordan, we miss you, and you better be here next month. Okay, let's give give a hand to all of our title sponsors, Best and Krieger, CMIT Solutions, Exemplar Wealth Advisors, Kernet Stokes, Kiln, and Providence Health Plan. You all bring these events to life, so thank you. A big thank you to Jennifer Long of Long Designs for creating the new logo for Central Oregon Innovation Hub. What do we think? Do we love it? I love it. Jennifer is here with us tonight, so please feel free to say hello. And is she actually in the room? Oh, there she is, right here. Hello, Jennifer. Very, very nicely done on the new logo. We love it. Now for an update on the economic development efforts from EDCO Sisters Area Director Eric Strobel. Eric, no somersaults necessary, but we're really excited to hear from you. So get on up here.
Thanks. Hey, welcome to Pub Talk. Thanks for being here. You could be out walking, biking, and being healthy like Julianne mentioned. Thanks for being unhealthy with us. We appreciate it. And no Pub Talk Nation primal scream from me. That's it. John Stark owns that. I love it. I think it's hilarious. And Ben, thank you for putting a picture of him doing that right on the Pub Talk page. That's awesome. So, yeah. So lots going on in our little community of sisters. I have sisters people in the house, right? Hello? Yep. Okay, cool. It's all right. We've got two expansions going on. We have Cascade Spirits, which you probably know more, Wild Roots, that brand, and they've got a couple other brands underneath them as well. They're leasing the former Laird warehouse, 30,000 square feet, which we were having trouble trying to get anybody in there. So GFP Response, which is the second largest disaster relief company in the nation. They've been in Sisters for 25 years, and they were looking to expand, couldn't find anything. They were thinking of leaving, but timing worked. Metabolic Maintenance was sold and moved to Utah. Three Creeks stopped brewing at their brewing facility next door to Metabolic Maintenance, and GFP bought both of those properties, and so they're staying, which is great. So we made, lemonade out of lemons. Again, we seem to do that a lot. So we've got startup activity, Avonlea Folk Embroidery. Do we have embroiderers in the house? Any? No? Oh, there's one. Thanks, Michelle. So they make embroidery kits, and they sell them all over the world. They use kind of Nordic folk designs and real bright colors. Think runners, placemats, wall hangings. They're doing great, and their number one customer base is 18 to 34-year-olds, which I was surprised. But that's cool that people are going back to some basics. We have Soyori, S-O-Y-O-R-Y, soy sauce company, and Scott does it the traditional Japanese way. It has to ferment for 7 months, so a batch takes 7 months. And they have a great little starter sample kit for $12. So give it a try. It's like no soy sauce you've ever had. It's awesome. And then we have Boxkill, weird name, and it's a tiny home manufacturer, all out of aluminum. And they just finished their first prototype, and it's on their website. They have a video tour and everything. Give it a look. It's incredible. And then Lazy Z Winery, which is mead, honey wine, right? Has anyone been to Lazy Z yet? Oh, cool. Great. Yeah. All right. Great date night spot. They have the tasting. It's on a historic ranch. It's the Red Barn when you come into town on the right with the pond. Right there. They've Friday nights they have music. It's packed. So give it a try. You don't have to drink mead if you don't like it. They have other stuff. And then we have 3 new light industrial buildings that are up and leasing, which is awesome because that was not the case years ago. And a expansion in Sisters meant a move to Redmond. So Steve Curley, no more. That's not going to happen anymore. Yeah. And then July 16th, we're doing a Maiden Sisters tour. It's going to be a walking tour. And we're going to have 3 to 4 companies. Sisters Coffee is one of those. BaseX is one. And Boxkill, the tiny home manufacturer, is one of those. So that marketing will go out sometime soon, so look for it. We'd love to have you out in Sisters, and thanks for the time.
Thanks, Eric. I was just in Sisters this week. Every time I'm like, it's just so lovely here. I just absolutely love it. So great. And like some of the most wonderful and random products are made in Sisters. I love it. Okay, so we would love to extend a thank you to all of our new EDCO members. EDCO membership underwrites a variety of support and resources, including events like these and efforts to build a prosperous and sustainable economy. And if you're not a member, we'd love to invite you to join us today. We are pleased to announce our newest EDCO members, Cressa, Ethos Commercial Advisors, Flynn Group of Companies, Lease Crutcher Lewis, Leber IP Law, Northwest Business Development Association, and Sound Capital. And I believe Sound Capital is in the room or in the building. Okay, in the lobby. Find those guys, say hello. And if you want to hear your business called out at a pub talk in the future and learn more about what EDCO membership can do for you, visit Larry Holman or any of the EDCO team here tonight. And I believe I saw Larry. There he is. Oh, no. Okay, everyone's in the lobby. Good to know. We are thrilled to have you here with us tonight. This is a very exciting evening of innovation and insight. And as usual, we kindly ask that you remain present in this room with us through the entire program. And if for whatever reason you do have to step out, we ask that you enjoy the talks from out in the networking area, just so that we can provide the best experience for our speakers. And we really thank you for that. We're so excited to hear from Fire Science Solutions, XyloPlan, and our keynote, Robert Shear. This is going to be one for the books, I promise you that. So again, thank you for the streaming abilities out in the lobby, Hand-It-On Productions. This allows us to go really smoothly through our program, and we appreciate your cooperation. So first up, we are excited to welcome to the stage our keynote, Robert Shear. Robert is a technology executive and serial entrepreneur whose career has focused on the intersection of emerging technologies and real-world industries, including construction, manufacturing, and wildfire resilience. Currently VP of Strategy at Open Space, a construction tech company using AI and computer vision to transform how the world gets built. Robert has spent over 2 decades building products, developing markets, and scaling teams. For the past 10 years, Robert has been deeply involved in wildfire resilience and has co-founded 3 companies that help communities better understand, manage, and respond to wildfire risk. Please help me welcome Robert to the stage.
I didn't really understand the somersault thing. Am I supposed to do a somersault or not? No, I can't do one. That was a long intro. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. A little bit of housekeeping. I understand that there's often folks take off after the keynote. I would really encourage you not to do that tonight. Dave Winnacker, friend of mine and colleague, will be kind of going into the practical realities of what we're talking about here. So I would definitely stick around with that. I'm going to kind of skim off the top of 3 big topics and ask you guys to participate. So careful. All right. 3 key messages. And I will say that we had a session maybe 2 months ago where we talked about a bunch of this stuff. And the top one is what people sort of came away kind of with their mind spinning. We don't really have a wildfire problem. We have a community burning down problem. They're very different problems, and so I'm going to talk about that. Wildfire resilience has emerged as a really rapidly growing investable market. I'm going to talk about that. And then finally, we are looking to spin up an incubator here around wildfire technology. And I want to talk to you about why we want to do it here and why now's the time to do it. I am going to call out Mark. It's his fault. At the BBC conference last year, I kind of heard about it. My wife, who's here, was like, you get out, go, meet people. And I went and did that. And I said things about like construction and all the stuff that person just said. And then I said wildfire, and everyone's like, wait, what are you doing? Wildfire. And so Mark's like, oh man, I got to show you the video. So she showed me the videos of the back of his house almost burning down. His brother-in-law is a wildfire, right? Saved the house. I had 5 conversations like that within 25 minutes of the BBC conference. And so it's just really stuck with me, like something's different here. Something's different here. Okay, then here, I come from California, where Dave and I have been doing this for a while. Okay. All right, so here's the agenda, intro. Yeah, this is me. And this is how it all happened. Dave can attest to this. Just basically like became the tech whisperer to a bunch of firefighters and fire chiefs. And hey, Dork, why can't we do this? Hey, Dork, why can't we do that? And we ended up kind of spinning up a few companies to do that. And coincidentally, a lot of the people who were part of those companies are here, which is kind of amazing. First one was evacuation management. It was called XyloPlan, called Zonehaven. Became Genesis. All of Oregon's on it for evacuation management. Second one was called Pyrezo, and JP, who is here, ran that. It's a home hardening app. And then the third one, which Dave will talk about, is called XyloPlan. And it's all about, okay, so we're going to mitigate risk. Where? How? Where's your prioritization? So that's what that's all about. So yeah, I'm not an expert at all, but that little thing in the blue is what I do. It's like, yeah, I know a guy. In fact, Julianne and I were just on a call today about insurance, about Wildfire, and I introduced her to a guy. I know a guy, and it turned out to be a great conversation. So that's kind of what's been going on. All right, reframing wildfire risk. You're going to hear a lot about this guy, Jack Cohen. I'm not saying he's the only voice out there, but he's pretty prominent. And he says, we don't have a wildfire problem, we have a structure ignition problem. And this is a very famous picture from Maui. I'm going to do a couple videos, and this is the first one here.
We're 98% successful in our initial attacks. So we're putting our energy into the very, very difficult margins of control during the severe conditions. And we're not gaining. In boldface, it basically tells us that we're going in the wrong direction. You know, we want to do fuel treatment, and particularly since 2018, we have emphasized the idea of doing fuel treatment, maintaining the wildfire definition of the problem, instead of taking the opportunity to be more practically effective with regard to changing the ignitability of the thing that gets destroyed, which are the structures.
Okay, so that's just the framing here, which is that fires are going to happen, extreme fires are going to happen, they're going to come through, and whether, the idea of stopping those is difficult. Like he's saying, we're on the margin of control there, but we can make our homes and our communities safe so they don't burn down, and that's a lot of what we're talking about today. So what this is the large dot is the loss, and the small dots are the number of fires, and you can see the asymmetry here, right? A few fires cause the majority of the losses. In fact, 2.7% of the fires cause 89% of the losses. Why is that? They're fast. It's not big, it's not intense, it's fast. And so you see the speed is the tipping point here. And so what we really have is a situation where when the conditions are right, when it's windy, dry, the fuel's ready, and these things are gonna go, they're gonna go. I mean, you got people in here who are part of the flat fire. Mark, Julianne, a number of people were part of that. My understanding, and people in the room know better, is that the reason those many more houses didn't burn down is the wind changed. It wasn't some new technology. I mean, Ken, you could talk about that. It's the wind changed, right? Are we going to change the wind? Probably not, right? And then speaking of flat fire, at one point there were 770 homes in the path, and there were 45 firefighters. So I say this because not to be doom and gloom, it's like the cavalry is not coming. You're not going to just wait for that tanker to drop stuff on your house. You're not going to wait for the trucks to come. The trucks just don't exist. So we have to do something as a community to make our communities more fire resistant.
Over the last 30 years, my colleagues and I have done research involving laboratory experiments, field experiments, and post-fire disaster assessments to quantify and qualify the relationship between a wildfire and a destroyed home. What we found is that the high-intensity flames, more than 100 feet away from the house, are largely incapable of igniting the house directly. It's the little things that seem to be destroying the houses. The burning embers, we call them firebrands, lofted out of the high-intensity wildfire to land in the community, sometimes directly on houses as well as the surroundings. It's not 100-foot flames. It's a pile of firebrands that would fit in the palm of our hand.
So I show that second video just to say, you know, a couple of firebrands fit in your hand. That doesn't sound very threatening. Did you see what that looks like when a fire comes through a community and those embers and firebrands? It's pretty intense. So a few pictures here just to sort of demonstrate this idea that trees burning does not equal houses burning, and houses burning does not equal trees burning. That's kind of, most people think of this as like, oh, I gotta get the trees away from my house. I gotta cut everything down. No, but you can see here before and after. The trees are just fine, right? There's some grass gone, but that house is gone. Same thing here, that house on the left, those trees are just fine. That house is gone. This is a fire that, you know, crossed the street. It came from right to left. Definitely the trees on the right, those are burned and done. But look at all the row of houses hiding or not hiding in there anymore under those trees. So it's not the idea that it goes tree to tree to tree. It is, there's different ignition mechanisms for how this happens. And the other side, you can have a fire like that in your front yard and your house survives, right? So it's, again, this is not doom and gloom. It's just rethinking the mechanics, okay? All right, so what are the mechanics? Same guy. He has this very simple framework of like, you got to have the right prerequisites. It's got to be dry. It's got to be hot. It's got to be wind. Something's got to ignite it. That then turns into something that transitions to an urban environment. And then there's the urban fire, right, where houses catch each other. So what it means is your house can withstand wildfire, right? That's the top picture. But only if your neighbors do the work too. Now, if you're within 50 feet, if you're 100 feet or more than that, you're kind of on your own, not on your own in a good way. You have different, you can determine your fate. If you're close in, your neighbors got to do the work too. Okay. So the way I think about it is to the left, it's a wildfire problem. Like, shoot, we got wildfires, they started, they're spreading. To the right, it's a collective action problem. And I think that I really want you to pay attention to that because that's why I think Bend in particular is a place we can make this happen. So another way to think about it, thanks to AI, is you've got this, and I'm going to talk about it. You have this, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Tribe group of people who really think they can bomb every fire within 10 minutes of starting. And so you've got the situation where these are top-down, exquisite, expensive. Expensive also means making some money, right? Like I'm going to sell you a C-130 that's got 100 bombs in it that's going to bomb things. So there's people working on this as far as market opportunity. But what really matters is stuff on the right? It's bottom-up, resilient, and then, again, Jack says this, it's not rocket science. It's harder. It's social science. And so how do you actually get 70% participation? That's the hard part. If you want to learn more, one of the guys we're working with, based in Portland, really amazing guy called Ralph Blomers. He's created this thing called Fire Safe People TV, and he's out there filming every day people who are preparing for wildfire, recovering. So he's a great resource. All right, market dynamics. I'm going to skip through this kind of quickly, but this is a real market. A lot more investors are investing in this. Big names, right? So you see kind of General Atlantic, Norwest, American Family Ventures. These are not sort of peripheral investors. And then there are companies like Convective, for example, that really were formed to fund wildfire and wildfire resilience. You can think of it lots of different ways. Everyone's got one of these things. This is mine. And so kind of going left to right, you've got detection and suppression, mitigation, survivability and continuity, then rebuilding and recovery. And in every single one of these, you've got things like autonomy. There's a ton of autonomy. People want robots to be crawling on the ground. They want to be flying. There's a ton of that. Simulation, communication, coordination, all that tech stuff. And then the bottom, you've got to underpin it with insurance, lending, and real estate. There's a lot of innovation happening in insurance right now. In fact, Julianne and I are working on that, and Dave. It doesn't come across as like technology, but man, that's going to unlock a lot. So this is kind of one way to think about it. I'm not going to talk about rebuilding and recovery because, I don't know much about it. And also, if you're there, you've kind of, we've done something wrong. So detection suppression. So again, the idea here is that satellites will watch the Earth 24/7. They will identify fires. Within 5 minutes, they will identify them, locate them, and some thing is going to fly over and drop a bomb on it, right? That's kind of what's going on. And so here's one little video of what this might look like. A little autonomous helicopter flying over a fire, basically dropping water balloons. But what do you notice about this environment versus the one where those embers were sort of moving all over the ground? Anyone? Not windy. Right. So you've got this situation where these folks are like, I'm going to fly this thing over here. No, you're not. You're not going to get it off the ground. You're not going to, there's aircraft up there. You're not going to let you fly. So it's just this, in my opinion, this sort of fallacy. And it goes further, right? So a lot of the names you might recognize, SpaceX, Lockheed, apparently Dave just told me this backed out, but anyway, Anduril, Palantir, they see this as a huge, huge market, right? Because they can take all this military stuff they're building and they can take it for Wildfire. And so I think pay particular attention to this thing on the bottom right. That's literally a bomb with 110 gallons of fire retardant in it that they want to drop on bombs, drop on fires. And so they want to have a C-130 loitering all the time above the West. Now, what happens when that's a Girl Scout campfire? I mean, seriously, how do you even think about this? How do you drop, military equipment on every fire when it's like a campfire? So it's just, anyway, you get the point. I'm not a big fan of that type of stuff. So here's, again, thanks, Dave. Dr. Strangelove, Smokey the Bear, B-2 bomber, water balloons. That kind of captures it all right there. It's kind of the what it seems like to me. And then again, mitigation preparation. So this is the idea of how do you actually reduce the susceptibility of a community to burn or a house to burn. Bunch of stuff here. You see up top, there's sort of autonomous little Roombas for the forest, people like to call them. There's this thing on the bottom is a services, right? So there's lots of services popping up where there's sort of landscapers plus, where they'll help you mitigate. There's this thing in the top middle left is a app that helps you map your defensible space, do home hardening, all that type of thing. And then XyloPlan, which Dave's going to talk about, which again, you got to stick around for. It's a good show. Is the one in yellow, which is all about how do we know where to do the mitigation and with what priority. So I'm not going to do a video of that because you got Dave coming up. This one I think is really interesting. And I've been talking with the folks at OSU about this a little bit. We all, relatively new to Bend, we now learn that a lot of people will rent places on the coast for August and September that they can cancel, and they're just like, yeah, it's a smoke season. We're just going to leave, right? So there's this, everyone understands this stuff. We have the PSPSs where we live. There's a communications tower on the top of the hill, and they shut down our power if something happens. So this is what we're living through. And so there's all these opportunities and businesses spinning up to provide home kind of systems, like keep your power on, keep your communications on, maybe keep your air purifiers on, right? That type of stuff. And then there are these private firefighters. So there's a whole business about like how do you adapt to a fire in your area, right? Not necessarily in your neighborhood, but in your area. So a quick couple videos on that.
Every year, thousands of wildfires threaten land and homes. Even the tiniest of embers can kindle a raging fire. This wildfire season, it's time to fire back. Introducing Frontline Wildfire Defense, a customized sprinkler system that saturates your house with water and firefighting foam so it's too wet to burn. Frontline's app alerts you when the fire is near and lets you remotely activate your system, even if you've evacuated. At Frontline, we're here to protect your family and home before disaster strikes.
So it looks great, right? And they're selling a lot of these things. some challenges, water supply, a number of things, but there's definitely markets for this, and they're selling them. Another one, this is more of back to
fighting
the comical
wildfire
side.
can be a lot like fighting wars. At least that's the case for an Israeli tech startup that took inspiration from their country's famous Iron Dome defense shield. Earlier this year, we told you about Fire Dome, a new system that detects spot fires, then launches rockets filled with retardant to put the fires out. Now the company is reporting another breakthrough, the first ever real-world demonstration of its systems, which are designed to be automatic, self-sufficient first responders. During the demonstration, Fire Dome successfully detected, targeted, and suppressed spot fires with precision aiming. The company calls it a, quote, turning point, because wildfires are getting big.
Right? Water balloon launcher. Okay, but what happened in Beverly Hills about 2 months ago when at Beverly Hills, right? Look at Palisades, look left, look at Altadena. It's like you guys are in it. What happened when people said, hey, you got to do some mitigation, you got to cut down some trees? They said, no, we're going to buy one of these, right? That's what kind of the mentality that we're at right now, especially in California, and I'll talk about that in a minute, is like, no, it's not my problem. We're just going to tech our way out of it. No, we're not. Okay, so I think the opportunity for Oregon is right here, right? Let's let Palantir and Lockheed Martin do this. That's likely going to be FEMA. That's going to be that type of stuff, but we have an opportunity right in the middle. If you want to learn more about this, there's a great group called Wonder Labs. You can search Wonder Labs State of Fire Tech, and they can give you a little information. Okay, now, what's this thing? So again, Mark's fault, number of other folks' fault. I started noticing something radically different in Oregon. It's this idea that people want to do something. Our cross-street neighbor went and bought a little Bobcat skid steer thing, and he offers to mitigate everyone's yard in our neighborhood. And it's crazy, right? It's crazy. We're on RB Butte, so what's that? Yeah, he'll come. He loves it. It's kind of his toy, right? But every newsletter is like about Firewise and this and that. And so I started pulling on threads, and I started talking to the guys at OSU, the folks at EDCO. Every time I said, hey, we might do this, they said yes. Every time I said we might do this, they said yes. And so there's just this potential energy of action here. And remember what I said, this is a collective action problem. This is not a technology problem. So what we think we want to try to do is create this thing called OWL, Oregon Wildfire Innovation Lab. And we want to establish Oregon as a living lab for fire-adapted communities. And along the way, we want to become a worldwide leader in the products and services that support that. And every discussion I've had with people here is that this is ready to go. And so this is what we're trying to do. So again, back in this space here. So what is it? What's missing in the space right now is validation at the community level. There's lots of incubators that'll test this thing or that thing or this little thing or that little thing, but there's no place we can go with an idea, whether it be insurance, a new insurance product, a new fence material, some new mitigation tool. There's no place you can go and actually deploy it at community scale and see if it's viable. So what we want to do on the left side is do that deployment viability. What does it look like to go to community and promote this? Do you need incentives? Do you need, what's the pricing look like? Do you need to get the town council involved? And on the right side, and Dave will show you some of this, we want quantitative results. And so as we go and test these things, we're saying, yes, it's deployable, right? There's a cost of goods sold type thing. And on the other side, yes, it's going to bend the curve, and insurance companies are going to understand it. So what pops out of the top are proven solutions, ideas, concepts that we can take and make businesses out of. So this is what we want to do. Real quick on why Oregon, why Bend, why now. The why now you can kind of see pretty easily. The why Oregon, functioning insurance market, motivated population, diverse group of communities, ecosystems, that type of stuff. Why Bend? Like I said, people just seem ready to go. There's a community of innovators here. This is it. There's a merging capital. There's a lot of talent. And then why now? Let's just not be California. And like, I'm not saying I'm not a California hater, but right now the market there is so upside down and backwards. Let's not get there. I'm going to go through this real quick, but you can see why we want to do it. Smarter, safer communities, affordable insurance, and economic growth. I really think this can be an economic growth engine for the region. All right, last 2 slides. Who do we have going so far? A number of these folks are in the room. So if you look at the data foundation, we want to build that. The deployment side, we got this really interesting group called Firebrand that's based in Rogue Valley that's moving statewide. On the quantification side, XyloPlan, some great stuff at Oregon State. A few communities have raised their hands, and we have some folks working. There's JH right there. A few folks working on the insurance side as well. So we've got a nice group kind of coming together, and now it's time to build. If you notice, we don't have a website, right? It's just sort of rubbing a few sticks together. But we got a really good group of people, and I got to tell you, the energy and the opportunity is here. So specifically, here's some stuff we can do, right? So if you're interested in being a demo community, great. HOAs are ideal for that. If you want to help build the platform or engage platform partners, great. If you want to help us engage insurance, anyway, you can read through all this stuff. But we're ready to, with OSU's help and some other folks, we got a little office. We got a group of really good people ready to make this real. So if you're interested, we do have an email, no website yet, but robert@owl.eco is how to reach out. So if you or someone you know would like to participate, please reach out.
This is amazing. Are you up for some Q&A?
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a few questions. It's getting weird out there, huh? People are like, I want to blast it with a bomb. That's just not where my brain goes. It seems counterintuitive, but...
Well, how do I say this? We have people writing checks who don't understand what's going on, and they love shiny stuff.
No.
With wings and bombs.
Come on.
Yeah. So
get out of here with that.
I've heard. Yeah.
But this is really incredible because I say, like, the whole time you were talking about, like, sort of the solution, the direction this is going, I was like, I'm in, sign me up. Like, what can I do? I want to sign my whole neighborhood up. I'm not licensed to do, like, I'm not, they don't even, no, it's not a thing, but I'm like, let's get in there. I mean, why not, right?
Yeah.
Have you identified areas in Bend where you're, like, going to start deploying these projects?
We're trying not to get ahead of ourselves. I mean, it is all volunteer Army. I've got a day job. Everyone else has day jobs. We're just sort of putting it together. We had Black Butte and Sun River at the meeting we did at OSU.
Great.
And they were like all in. I think if we reached out to any number of these HOAs, I think they'd be all in as well. But we're trying not to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. Okay. Questions for Robert. I know there will be some right here.
We already spoke, but
Hmm?
This morning I was on a call with someone and she mentioned this awesome quote from Peter Block, which is, the question of how starts with yes. And I just thought that was appropriate. But the second thing is on the how do we join communities and everything. I would love to just put it out there that we should be thinking about also testing how this could work at a slightly larger scale, which is the City of Bend's Neighborhood Association. There are 13 of them. And they capture a wider range of property ownership, renters, commercial, residential.
Yeah.
Yes.
And from an equity perspective, we can also test some of those barriers to action.
Yes.
Collective action in neighborhoods that we don't always think of.
Yeah.
As being a high priority.
Yeah, no one's thinking of my neighborhood. Thank you for that. She said we can go through City of Bend, the neighborhood associations.
please
That's like
send
a
an
really
email
great
and
place to
I'll
start.
follow up on
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you
And we
for
are
that.
looking at not just Bend. We're looking at Rogue Valley. We're looking at La Pine. We're looking at Madras. So the group that I mentioned, Firebrand Resilience Collective, they've got connections all over the state. And the other one that's pretty amazing, I put it up there, was OSU Extension. We think we can leverage them to really reach into these communities as well.
Yeah, so cool. Okay, other questions right here.
Yeah, it's usually cheaper to build and design houses, communities to be fire resilient in the first place. How much work have you done, or are you looking into working with builders to get things built appropriately?
This is a great question. So he says it's usually cheaper to build housing that's more resilient to begin with. And so he's wondering, like, have you connected with any builders and what does that look like?
We've thought, I mean, Hayden Holmes was interested in this. We've thought about it. There's actually some interesting stuff going on at UCLA where they're actually trying to train architects on how to build these things. In fact, what Dave will show on XyloPlan is that, for example, when you're laying out a community, why not put the golf course on the outside? Becomes a fuel break. And so I don't know much about what you're talking about, but I think, first let's stop the fires from burning down the communities we have. But I absolutely think we should be building the communities to be fire safe. It's going to make the property values better.
Yes.
It's going to make quality of life better. So there's definitely things we can do there.
Can we make those houses self-cleaning while we're at it? That's a question that I have, Robert. Let me know where you get with that. Okay, any other questions for Robert? Really? Oh, yes, right here. So he's wondering, like, what is the end goal here? Is it awareness? Is it getting people actually involved? Is it, what's the real,
end
have you
goal
gotten that far?
Of OWL or just the whole thing? I mean, to me, this has to be a social movement. I'm old enough to remember, I don't remember people smoking on airplanes. I remember ashtrays on airplanes. And can you imagine if someone smoked on an airplane now? Because society has changed, right? And so I'd like us 10, 15 years from now to be like, we build houses that are fire safe, we maintain them to be fire safe. And so the end goal, it sounds lofty and it's true, is to start sort of proving that motion can happen. It can happen at community scale and that there can be a viable economic engine that supports it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a decent answer, but that's what we're trying to do.
I mean, that last part is so important, right? If we can turn this into a business opportunity, people are like, tell me more. Yeah. So that's very cool. And also, I think you're right, identifying the state of Oregon. People, especially in Central Oregon, people do want to be involved. So
it's amazing, yeah.
Was there, yes, a follow-up.
On the same path, who is the target consumer?
Who is the target consumer?
So far, the HOAs we think are pretty good because they have pretty good authority to tell you to do stuff, and they also often own and manage the sort of common spaces, and so those seem like a good place to start. But I think it needs to be the entire community.
Yeah, and I mean, we're up for it, right? We can evolve forward. Couldn't we? We could do it. I believe in us. Okay, this is amazing. And I think also some of these questions that people have, you're also answering those as you go, right? Am I understanding that correctly? You're like, what is this thing going to turn into? You don't have a clear set.
No, I think I think we've been very impressed with the group of people that we put together. Not impressed with myself, but I mean, like I've been, what's the right word? Impressed with the quality of the people that have raised their hand to participate.
And the number of yeses that you're getting.
Yeah, and the support from the community. And now it's a matter of how to put structure on that and move it forward.
Well, the truth is, this is like an underlying source of anxiety for everybody. Yes, 99% of us at least. And even just knowing that we're having a meaningful conversation around it helps. So I would hope that you're getting a great response, and I appreciate what you're doing, and I hope you'll come check back in with us and send your friend over because we've got some yard waste apparently in
Jamie,
the area.
And he loves it.
He sounds great. We all want to meet that guy. Thank you so much, Robert.
Right.
Yeah. It just never ceases to amaze me, the people that get up on this stage and share with us. It's remarkable. Okay, my friends. Tonight's next talk is brought to you by Summit Bank, thrilled to sponsor PubTalk. We are your local business bank, Oregon's fastest growing bank, the bank with beer. And now, after 21 years, we are the second largest bank based in Oregon. We are Summit Bank, Oregon's business bank. And looking to grow your business or strengthen your team, COCC's Center for Business and Small Business Development Center offers no-cost advising, practical workshops and workforce training to help small business owners and organizations across Central Oregon thrive. Visit cocc.edu/Center for Business to learn more. Our first pitching founder tonight is John Calkins from Fire Science Solutions. John has built his expertise in the fire industry upon firsthand insight into delays that impact response. As owner of God Ablaze Inc., He managed 4 Type 6 engines and identified inefficiencies in traditional hose lay methods, highlighting the need for greater speed, consistency, and scalability. Please help me welcome John to the PubTalk stage. John, come on up.
Can you do the clicker for me? I only have 2 hands.
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. All right, thanks so much for having me, EDCO. And this picture here really gets to me. This is a picture from the 2015 Canyon Creek complex. Destroyed 43 homes, another 100 structures. This is the only structure on the north side. I was mostly over by the Soda Creek Lookout watching the Strawberry Wilderness blow up. So this assignment was hard because I had to take this family up there, and this is what was left. Go ahead and click that. Fires are devastating. The 41,000 deaths from smoke is a pretty big number. But other than that, there's communities like Sisters that when it's smoky, they lose business. They make most of their money in the summertime, and it kills them. Annually, 27,000 structures are lost, about 15,000 homes. Private timber losses are about 2 to 10 billion a year. And then you got State Farm, Allstate, Farmers, USAA, Nationwide, and Liberty Insurance. They're all pulling out of the market. The losses are too much and they're unpredictable. The actuaries and the reinsurance industry is really hard to control right now. Go ahead. So let's put some boots on the ground. This is a pumping platform. It's a fire engine. And this is how you put out a fire. You don't use a bomber. You use hose. Standard hose lay is a 100-foot section of 1.5-inch hose. Every 200 feet you have a T. That's reduced down to inch line with a nozzle, and that's what you fight the fire with. Click on. So how is this a problem? Line gear's 20 to 30 pounds. When you put on a fire pack, you're carrying your lunch, your batteries, your fuses, all sorts of stuff. And then you put on a fire hose pack, and that weighs another 35 pounds. You got a tool like a Pulaski or a shovel or maybe a chainsaw. So it's very cumbersome to do it the way they do it now. It's slow, and it takes a hose clamp to do it, and fire spread is the main culprit here. Go ahead. So how did we find the fire science solution? We are empowering everybody, everyday heroes. They're not just firefighters that are the agency level. You have the homeowners association, and you have individual people that need this type of protection. Go ahead. This is my side-by-side video. On the left, you have, this is at double speed. They're throwing on a fire pack here. Then they throw on another pack. On the right, you'll see my latest prototype and proof of concept invention. The white hose is your trunk line hose. That's your 1.5 inch, and the yellow hose is your inch hose. These guys are going to get to where they're at. He's going to do a fire clamp on the left, and then they're going to start doing inch hose. Normally, you have sticks and terrain, and it doesn't quite work quite that easy. These guys are professionals, and right about now, they're working on their second 100 feet of hose, and I've already laid out 1,000 feet of hose with 500 feet of trunk line and ready to fight fire. Go ahead. All right, so yeah, I've had a pretty weird, blessed life. First of all, I'd like to thank my wife because she's been supporting me through all this, going to OSU Cascades. kind of my background. I moved to Bend because I was the original gangster snowboarder. I was the first pro snowboarder in Oregon. I founded High Cascade Snowboard Camp and sold it to Vans Shoe Company. And then I moved from fire to, or snow to fire. And I started God Ablaze. And after my second back surgery, I thought, well, gee, I better go back to school. Before the COVID, we started We Care Services, which is an in-home care business. So if you have retired people you need help, hit me up for that too. And then now I'm a Bend Outdoor Works mentor, cohort, sorry. I'd like to thank Clayton over here. He's been my score mentor from day one. And then Ron Blaylock couldn't make it today, but he's been a big mentor for snow and fire my whole life, basically. I'd like to shout out to Gary Braceland and Mickey Keller, who I knew from the action sports arena a long time ago. And then Lauren Ebby at Bend Metal, and then Olympus Trailers and Bend Trailers out of Eugene. Next one. Globally, the world fire equipment market's $5 to $8 billion. In North America, it's $2 to $3.6 billion. And after doing some benchmark research on different fire equipment businesses, I think we can expect 45 to 65% blended margins on our product. Next one. We are looking for funding to finalize our R&D and testing on our next plastic spool. I'm trying to get away from metal because there's huge tariffs on things like that right now. And the platforms for deployment. We want to ramp up production, become NWCG certified, NFPA certified, and then again work with the regional fire caches and the HOAs, insurance companies for mitigation, railroad companies, and then obviously Pacific Power has a problem right now. All right. That's it. Any questions?
All right. So you said you moved from snow to fire, but that's a pretty big jump. So how did this really get started for you?
Yeah, I switched from snow.
Yeah.
I sold my camp, and then I did fire because then I could be at home with my kids in the wintertime.
And then you obviously see a problem and you're like, what could actually help? But I mean, this wasn't your background, so it's just so interesting that you came up with this idea.
Yeah, it's, when you sit on a fire truck for 18 hours a day, you have a lot of time to think about things and what's efficient, what's not efficient. They have 18 watch outs and they say the 19th is the overhead. So, yeah. I at OSU Cascades, I had a failure class, and that's when I started diddling around with the mock-ups. And this is probably my second mock-up. And go back one.
Yeah.
That's my first mock-up.
She said, on my kitchen table.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got to lay it out somewhere. You want to go back another one or come forward? Okay.
And that's the fire truck I bought
I love
at Fred Meyer.
Yeah.
So if you see there, you can see the way they did it. They went out 100 feet, then they start bumping the line down. You go every 200 feet, and then the gated Y has the inch line going backwards. So you're actually fighting fire from one side to the other side for each gated Y.
Have you tried this out on anything?
I've just done deployment runs.
Yeah, cool.
That was that one video.
Okay.
Yeah, that took about 4.5 minutes to drive around the property and deploy 1,000 feet. When they're well-trained people are doing it, it's taking.
I mean, in the Subaru, it looked like a school drop-off. I mean, it was like, no big deal. We're just going to lay 1,000 feet of hose down. Questions for John? Okay, it looks like you've got them thinking. Right here. Is the hose fire resistant?
No, it'll burn up. Yeah, you
don't light it on
fire. You try and keep
fire.
it in the green. Yeah.
Don't set the hose on fire. That will.
I think the main application, like the previous speakers, the homeowners associations, it's really easy. You got your post office box building and next to it you have a thing and you pull out your trailer. I did that with my Subaru Forester, so anybody can do it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't, first of all, are you going to wait for the fire department to deploy hose? And then what do they do when they leave? They take their hose with them. That doesn't mean the fire's out.
Right.
So this is a preventative measure. Pacific Palisades in that wind, I don't know how many homes we could have saved, but we probably could have saved some of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you see these being just sort of strategically placed throughout the communities?
Definitely.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes.
Okay. Question right here. It got answered. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Right here. What do you think that would retail for?
Well, we're going to keystone it up from what it costs.
We're going to keystone it up from what it costs.
The hose alone, right there, for all that stuff. The hose alone for all that is anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000, and so the spool will be probably $4,000 to $5,000, and then whatever the platform is, that was a trailer. We'll have a platform to do the back of pickups. Probably drones will be used in the future, in the back of quad runners also.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, right here, and I think this is our last one.
Who would be using these mentioned deployed HOAs?
Mm-hmm.
Would like residents be pulling this out and spraying?
Yeah, this is a great question.
Yeah,
So is this something that, just one second, is this something that you see, like who do you see actually using this? Is the HOA, is their employees, are these like citizens coming out with their foresters?
If you have a 5-acre ranch and you want to protect yourself, you would deploy this, and you would probably have a pump set up to your cistern or your pond. If there's in a homeowners association, you could roll out miles of this stuff in half hour and cover the whole neighborhood, put it up to your fire hydrants, and you're good to go.
And it does seem like something people are like, yeah, I'll chip in on that. Just like there's one main guy with a Venmo ready to get the hoses going.
Yeah.
John, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're great.
I love to see a good solution. How about another round of applause for John? And thank you for all of your meaningful questions. Again, tonight would not be possible without community partnerships. BBSI, Barrett Business Services, partners with Central Oregon businesses to simplify HR, payroll, and risk management and provide business strategy. We handle the business of employment so you can focus on growth. Proudly supporting EDCO to build a stronger local economy. Let's scale your vision. Next up, we are excited to welcome to the stage a pitch from XyloPlan. Our final speaker tonight is Dave Winnacker, co-founder of XyloPlan and retired fire chief. XyloPlan is an advanced wildfire analytics and visualization platform designed to transform how communities, fire agencies, and the insurance industry understand and mitigate the threat of wind-driven wildfires. Welcome to the stage, Dave.
All right, thank you very much. There are at least 2 other retired fire chiefs in the room, so good to see y'all. Appreciate the opportunity. As Robert alluded to at the beginning, this problem isn't going away, it's not getting better, and help isn't coming. And wildfire is unique among all natural perils in that we have the ability to change the outcome. Communities have agency over not their exposure to wildfire, but the consequences of those exposures. And we need to fundamentally rethink the idea that wildfire is the problem, because these are fire-dependent landscapes we live on. If we eliminated all utility-caused starts, if we eliminated all human-caused starts, we would still have plenty of fire on the landscape. And so the issue isn't that we have too much fire, it is that we have built without considering fire. And as the fire chief of a well-resourced suburban district, where we had plenty of problems, but money was not one of them, what I kept running into was the limiting factor on our ability to carry out a state of wildfire adaptation was community will to act. So it would be better if everybody who lived in the WUI or downstream of the WUI did everything with regard to wildfire preparedness. But that's simply not the world we live in. And so it is critically important that we prioritize our efforts and we understand the difference between activity and outcomes. If you live in a Firewise neighborhood, that is awesome, and I'm glad you did that. And your Firewise neighborhood sign will not stop any fire ever. But we often engage in magical thinking, just like satellites and water balloon throwing things and robots, that somehow these activities will equate to an outcome. So with that in mind, with the idea that we should be focused on outcomes, not activity, I'm going to run through some slides. We're going to go fast. Bear with me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end. All right, so from the beginning, if we have a community, we need to understand, not predict a fire as in say tomorrow there will be a fire, but predict the manner in which fire will spread. Wind-driven fires are associated with 78% of the structure losses in the last 20 years. Wind-driven fires are particularly dangerous when there is wind aligned with topography and aligned with fuels that are capable of carrying fast-moving fires. We can predict the manner in which fire will close with a community by understanding the topography, fuel, and the weather. We can prioritize our mitigation efforts so that the mitigations at any particular parcel are matching the mechanisms of ignition. If a home is only exposed to firebrand or embers because it is not at the vegetative edge, it is interior to the community, defensible space 30, 40, 50, 100 feet from the home are not going to impact the survivability. That home needs ember resistance. If a home is further downwind, where it is not within the area that it's going to be exposed to ember, but it's going to be exposed to urban fire, then the mitigations to protect that home are activities upstream at the point of transition. So we need to prioritize our mitigation efforts so that we can achieve the greatest outcomes for our limited resources. And then lastly, we need to be able to explain what we have done, both to our communities so they understand where the step function changes in community risk will occur, and to the risk transfer industry so that we can get credit for the work we have done. Too often we set forth without a plan, we carry out random acts of mitigation, and then we demand credit for that work from the risk transfer industry, who unsurprisingly are not willing to underwrite our lack of a plan. So what does that look like? First, we'll walk through the mechanisms of ignition. Given an ignition on a day that is capable of carrying fast-moving wind-driven fire that is likely to escape initial containment, that 3% or 2.8% of tail fires, we have fast-spreading fire that encounters the community. Where it closes with the community, it will begin to produce embers that will create ember deposition area within the first quarter mile or less of the community. You will often hear that embers travel miles, that embers ignite homes, and that homes ignite other homes. All three of those statements are true by themselves, but they are not true when you squish them together. If you don't believe me, take a look at the maps from the Palisades and Altadena and note there are 0 examples of structure loss more than 1 block beyond the perimeter of the fire. It just doesn't happen in a community setting. You need a density of embers to cause large-scale ignitions. So we now have ember wash and ground component fire threatening the community. At the edge there, where those homes have direct exposure to vegetation capable of counting fire, we will see structures ignited by either ground fire and or embers. And we will also see structures ignited that don't have direct exposure to ground component fire because sufficient ember deposition has occurred in those areas. Those homes will produce embers in their own right that will further project the ember deposition area into the community. And we will see subsequent ignitions from both embers, from structures, from embers to vegetation to structures, from structure to structure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these fires will burn until the wind stops or they run into the Great Pacific fuel break that is held every time. We say we put these fires out, we don't. The wind stops and we run a line around them and declare victory. And so we now have the conditions for an uncontrolled urban fire. These are the fires that have resulted in the vast majority of structure losses in the last 20 years. So how do we break this down? How do we break this chain of ignition, understanding that once this fire is an urban fire, when structures are the fuel most likely to carry the fire, our wildland fire mitigations are no longer effective. If you have created defensible space and ember resistance in your home, and your neighbor's home that is less than 50 feet away is on fire, your house will burn, irregardless of the fact that you have prepared for wildfire, because you're not seeing a wildfire at that point. The flux in watts per meter squared over time of a burning house is 10x the flux of a vegetation fire. So now that we have this urban fire, how do we disrupt this chain? So we start with understanding what are the weather conditions. We need to know the frequency. We need to know the interaction of the weather and the topography. And we need to know the characteristics. On the bottom, we see the frequency by years. On the left, we see the direction. In Southwest Portland, their primary fire weather days are almost exclusively a northeast wind with winds that can reach as high as 30 miles an hour. So we understand that fire is going to be coming from the northeast. On a low wind day, we don't lose homes. There is not a scenario with this weather history where we are likely to see fire coming from the other directions. So we would start with prioritizing mitigations that would protect the community against a northeast ignition. We then overlay the ember deposition zone. What is the projection of embers into the community with sufficient density to cause large-scale ignitions? This will start to inform the extent by depth into the community of our wildfire-specific mitigations. We can then model the spread of fire. What you see here is the mechanism of ignition associated with each ignition pixel. Green is veg to veg, where vegetation is burning other vegetation and spreading in a ground fire. Red, back it up, sorry. Red is where structures are burning other structures, and blue are ember-caused ignitions. So we can go back and we can assign to each pixel what was the mechanism of ignition so we can match the mitigations to the mechanism of ignition for that pixel, rather than giving homeowners a generic list with a Smokey the Bear thing saying only you can prevent wildfires and you need to do all of these things, which homeowners, unsurprisingly, treat as an a la carte menu from which they can randomly select mitigations and then expect to be credited with the work they have done. So what we see here are mitigations match the mechanism of ignition. Red are those homes that have exposure to ground component fire and embers. Those homes need defensible space and they need ember resistance, specifically a Class A roof, ember resistant vents, and a 5-foot home ignition zone cleared out around them. Blue are the homes that have exposure to embers. They're within the ember deposition zone, but they don't have direct exposure to ground component fire. They need ember resistance. They don't need defensible space because that's not how fire is getting there. Fire is getting there either through adjacent structures or through embers. So those homes only need a home ignition zone, 5-foot of non-combustible space, replacement of the vents, and a Class A roof, which almost all of them already have. And purple are the homes that are exposed to urban fire. Their risk of ignition is their neighbors burning. And to protect those homes, we work our way back upstream to the point of transition. Because those homes, defensible space and home hardening does nothing for them because the only way fire gets to that point is through adjacent structures, which will overwhelm the mitigations. So we work back upstream to the point of entry and we work on mitigation efforts that would prevent fire from getting there in the first place, speaking to prioritization. We can align that with a thoughtful fuel mitigation plan that protects our evacuation routes, protects our critical intersections, and buffers some of the edge areas of the community so those homes will no longer be exposed to ground component fire. We can shift the burden for defensible space from the homeowner to the adjacent landowner, particularly if it's public lands, so that homeowner now would shift from red to blue. They would only need ember resistance. Critically important that we protect those evacuation routes because no firefighters are fighting fire if there is a life safety threat. If residents are unable to evacuate, our firefighting response is taken away from their firefighting mission and assigned life safety. We can further break the community into a series of work units or conflagration basins. And these are the areas where the risk is coupled. And these are the areas where we can track progress towards mitigation. Because I think we could all imagine that if a couple of homes all the way down on the right and a couple of homes all the way up on the left did work, we wouldn't be seeing network effects, right? Their work wouldn't aggregate together because they see fundamentally different fire. So we wouldn't be seeing the appropriate density of mitigations to achieve network effects. And at the risk of using a graph in a public presentation, the blue line is your mitigation line. It's generally pretty linear, right? You do work, you do a little more, we're moving up in a little linear manner. The orange line is the effectiveness line because this is a step function problem. If you are partially mitigated as a community, you are not mitigated because of the urban fire problem. And the problem here is if we don't know where the step functions occur, if we don't know what the appropriate density of mitigations across the appropriate extent is, we're running a race where we don't know the finish line. And so then our residents have done some work. They've moved along that blue activity line for sure. And they're waiting to get affirmation that their work was effective. But they haven't hit the step function where it has become effective. And then they all get non-renewed. Or then they have a big fire and some home burn and they all give up. And they say, what's the purpose? Or worse yet, they go to their legislators and they regulate the manner in which insurance is being written, which all that does is accelerate the collapse of your market. A very short-term solution. So if we don't know where these step functions are, if we don't know where the finish line of the race is, we will never get there. And so the other point I would make is that once you have achieved a state of adaptation, that wildfire adaptation point, your residual level of adaptation remains high, but your activity drops off to a much lower maintenance phase, or in the case of new construction, you're there from the beginning. But if we don't know where these points are, we're just going to be expending effort randomly without understanding what the goals are. So back to those work units, those conflagration basins we drew out. There's a couple of these I'd point out. The third column there is the number of homes that need work for full defensible space and home hardening. The next is those that need ember mitigation. And on the left, we can see in some of these cases, a small number of homes mitigated that cut off the fire pathway that would bring fire to those homes in purple can have an outsized impact. So we can achieve collective benefits. Network effects can be achieved. Small amount of work, large amount of benefit. That starts to feel like a free lunch, because a little bit of work can get us a lot of benefit instead of the space we're in now, where a lot of work gets us essentially no benefit. I like to joke, being from California, I can write a book about what doesn't work from the wildfire risk space. But whatever you do, if you're going to lose, at least don't do it expensively, as we have done. We would have been better off in California to save all of our money for a rebuilding fund and let it all burn and rebuild it with wildfire in mind, rather than losing slowly and expensively as we are doing now. Please don't quote me on that. So in this case here, the areas in green are areas where the full mitigations have been carried out. And you remember the example we ran through at the beginning. This is the exact same fire running across the community where portions of the community are fully mitigated. And what you see, some homes burn, but it's a small enough number that the rate of ignition is below the rate of firefighting response. Jack Cohn's WUI disaster sequence, step 5 and step 6. And that in this case, the available firefighters could focus on those areas where the mitigations hadn't happened to prevent it from breaking through. So it becomes a scale problem and a time problem. This is very achievable. We know how to do it. The mitigations are low cost. They're highly effective. We just need a plan. I thank you all very much for the opportunity. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
My goodness, Dave. I want to start by complimenting you on your syntax. Very impressive. I also want to say, have you thought about running for office? You can answer that later. Okay. Wow. So questions for Dave right here.
Sisters and Deschutes County have both recently adopted, actually this went into effect this month, new building standards for fire hardening. Ben Redmond are looking at it. How does this play into that? Do you think those standards
Yeah. Great question. So she said Sisters and Deschutes County have implemented some new building codes. Redmond and Bend are also looking at them. And what is your take on that?
So the WUI code, what they adopted, the IWUI code, is awesome. It's missing the home ignition zone, the zone 0, the last 5 feet. Without that, it's generally ineffective because you'll have accumulations of firebrands or embers. Great. If you have zone 0, thank you, Mayor. Then it's awesome. And furthermore, to the question before, not only are homes built to that standard highly resistive to ignition, master plan communities to that standard, particularly those that are inclusive of things like non-burnable features at the edge, like a golf course, a dog park, et cetera, can act as buffers so that your legacy neighborhoods are now separated from the combustive vegetation by a non-combustible development. So the idea that you can't build in the WUI, you can't build in a fire-dependent landscape is completely false. You just have to build to the right standard. I mean, we could build on Mars if you built to the right standard. So those codes are highly effective, particularly when coupled with home ignition zone and defensible space and maintenance of those features over time.
So bring back the moat. I'm hearing bring back the moat. Okay, yes, right here. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we're not going to stop there. I have a house built 10 years ago. It's 10 feet between. I have a Class A roof. I have cement siding. My neighbor builds a wooden fence. Okay, and you're not stopping this. I can do whatever I want. But as soon as my neighbor, that house in Lahaina, one of the big things was it had a masonry fence around the house. Okay. Stuccoed with cement roof tile, okay? So the house could have been built, and if they had built a wooden fence around it, might have burned.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we are
Okay, I love this question. Are we urinating in the wind? This is a great question. Thank you for that. He's talking about like he has mitigations on his home. Neighbor built a wooden fence. And he has no control over that. So, what can we do about that?
Yeah. So I was a Marine Corps infantry officer before I was a firefighter, so I've urinated in the wind many times. But I'm not going to do that tonight. So you're absolutely right. If homes are within 10 meters of each other, they are coupled. Home A will burn home B, irregardless of the mitigations. And if homes are in that distance or farther, and they are coupled by a combustible fence, that is definitely associated to increased structural losses. However, that fence becomes critically important when it's within the last 5 feet. So if your homes are 10 feet apart and exactly 5 feet away, there's a wooden fence. That is not great. It would be far better if no combustible fences were allowed in those areas. However, it's the gate that connects the fence to the home. That is the critical non-negotiable part.
So what do you build the gate out of?
Metal.
Metal.
Home Depot will sell you one today.
Home Depot will sell you one so you can, and they're open late. So, yeah. Okay, another question for Dave right here.
So do you see this plan like the city would identify those outlying homes and then help that homeowner mitigate that risk, or the city would easement?
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to build a masonry fence or a moat. Because the plan makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Critical areas will go up if they're controlled. Is it over 80%?
I think, yeah. Okay, so do you see the city sort of doing this, or do you see people building their own moats?
Yeah, great question. And so the answer to all great questions is it depends. And so there's a question of density. In a high density area, there is a very real argument to be made that the mitigations at the edge should be subsidized because all the downwind people are protecting. So Pigouvian taxes and subsidies make sense. There's also an argument that if the home is isolated and it doesn't threaten others, well, then we should tell the homeowners what to do, but kind of leave them to make their own decision about how much risk they're willing to accept. But in the coupled state where the homes are adjacent to others, your asset is my peril, and vice versa. And exactly to the last gentleman's point, I object to the idea that you can decide whether my home burns or not. And so those become excellent opportunities for government. That said, I spent 7 years beating my head against this wall as the fire chief. There are limits to what government is willing to do, which is why HOAs are such a wonderful starting point, because HOA boards take no prisoners. And if an HOA board can tell you what color you can paint your house, they can certainly tell you whether or not your house can represent a risk to the rest of the community.
My goodness, like HOAs are the theme of the night. I did not see that coming.
Right.
We're going to turn this HOA thing around. Okay, yes, Rita.
Okay, great presentation. I feel like I should get credit for attending this class. But I am super curious. What is the business model behind XyloPlan?
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
She says she feels like she should get some credit for attending this class. Me too. And what is the business plan for XyloPlan?
Great question. So the XyloPlan business model is to sit astride the communication between a community, what it needs to do, and what it has done. We have a strategic partnership with Fireside, who carries out parcel-based inspections. So the data you saw for Portland, that was synthetic data because they haven't done it, but ingested from Fireside directly. So the model is updated to match conditions on the ground. So we have told you what you should do. You have told us what we have done. We have updated the model. So that's the first part. That's monetized. The second part is an anti-gravity move where you pivot and you now sell the resultant score to insurance companies so that the premium for the price of the policies being written in that area accurately reflects the conditions on the ground. So that the community is now getting credit for the work they have done, and the insurance industry, the risk transfer industry, where you sell to both insurers and to reinsurers, is pricing risk accurately, which is a wonderful business proposition in that both of our products, our insurance risk score and our community risk mitigation plan, are made more valuable by the other product. A community risk mitigation score that informs an insurance score is a far more valuable plan than if I just show up and say, I think this is what you should do. And an insurance risk score is a far more valuable score if it is based on a plan and on conditions on the ground, instead of on a 90-meter pixel updated every 5 years, which is the normal CAP model. Fun fact, CAP models generally show that golf courses will burn because it's GR3, which is grass less than 3 feet, which is technically true. But I think we all would agree a fairway is not going to burn.
I think we can take another question, right? Yeah, okay. There was one over here. Okay, we'll take this one.
Mine should be a quick question. Have you had a chance yet to test the models against an actual situation?
Have you had a chance yet to test the models against an actual situation?
Correct. We ran the LA fires, the Humboldt fires, and the Ventura County mountain fire last year without calibration. The model overperforms and underperforms in two cases. Multiple day runs, the model overperforms because it's not accounting for firefighting response. So firefighters interdict the fire spread when you get into the second or third operational period where they're showing up. And then the model underperforms when you get into dense urban homes because there are too many variables. And if you turn the model up, so in some areas in Altadena, that fire ran. I don't know why, but there were a bunch of things that were unique to those parcels. And today, in the absence of community mitigation, you just set every structure to burnable, but the rate is highly variable. So there's some deviation when you get into the community, but in the landscape and the understanding of the entry points and the consequence, it lines up into the 90s very quickly with multiple fires.
Great question. Did you build this yourself?
I didn't, but the team did.
My goodness.
I'm a firefighter. I can't code.
I think you probably could if you tried, Dave. I'm really impressed by this presentation here. Okay, I hope you'll come back and check in with us. This has been incredible. Thank you for being here. Okay, how we doing? Okay, here's what I think we should do. I think we should take a big, deep breath in through our noses and then open up your mouth and breathe out. And then I just want you to look around the room and remind yourself, look around the room, see the people here who are with you. Our community together is so strong, right? Our community together is so strong. Okay, so just let that be the point that you take home with you tonight. Okay, we got this. Thank you, Dave. I want to also say we have a lot more events coming up, and it's important for us to gather in these times. These ideas happen when we are together in person. So please, please join us for the SLED annual luncheon. This is at Sun River Resort. This will take place on April 30th, and you don't want to miss our Made and Bend tour, which is on May 14th. Tickets are available now. PubTalk will be right back here at Open Space on May 28th. The Made in Redmond tour takes place on June 12th. I know you're going to remember all of these. More information on these events, in case you don't remember all of the dates, can be found on the website at edcoinfo.com/events. I want to say special thanks to Open Space and Hand in Hand. And if you need an excuse to laugh or you want to get together with your friends, you can come to the Tower Theater on May 16th. I'm having a comedy show with Chelsea Woodmansee and Helen Keeney. It's going to be an absolute blast. I would love to see you there. I'm Shannon Kelly. Thank you for having me. Y'all are amazing.